I want to talk about these Volt weapons, not because they're new and exciting, but more so just because they've had an interesting journey into the game. So these are guns that were introduced to us in Star Citizen a long time ago. We could go back with our footage and I'll just search Volt and they'll probably pop up somewhere. So 2021, let's see, September 2021. I bet you I can find the actual video of that. So I believe this is their first introduction to these weapons. And I want to point something out here that we probably won't end up touching on after this part. If you look at the monthly reports, this was in the video I just released today, actually. If you look in the monthly reports of this, you'll see that the team that was working on these was hitting weapons constantly. You can even see it in the release view. You go back to 3.1 weapons, releases. 3.2 weapons, releases. 3.3 releases. 3.5, okay, sure. 3.4 release. 3.5 new guns. 3.6 new guns. 3.7 new guns. 3.8 new guns. 3.9 didn't have any, which was interesting. That was a first. So we'll skip that one. But 3.10, 3.11, 3.12, and then there's all. There's just no more guns, no more weapons, no more nothing. There's like a little bit of some ship guns here. The bearing size 7 weapons, but I believe those are just because the Ares came out. Yeah, so these are guns hooked to the ship. Those don't count. Laser trip mine also doesn't count. We can't even put these out ourselves. They just exist in the game. But you can see there was nothing. There was nothing up until 3.18, and at that point it was the salvage attachment. So pretty clearly the team new guns, wow, kind of like FPS. Yeah. So Hustle's making my point for me. As you can see here, they were making a whole bunch of stuff for the game. And then they shifted to Squadron 42, to the game that actually needs FPS. And you could see kind of how they were so freaking focused on combat up until that point. And then they started to shift more towards things like salvage and some other tools and gameplay and things that were going on. So if you go to the monthly reports, you also see this. There's a big gap where they're talking about working on items and tools and stuff like that. And then suddenly they're not. This is also the case when you look at the old salvage tool that they were building at the time. Yeah, so here it was back here. They gave us this big update where they showed us the crossbow. They showed us the cutting tool. They showed us door breach charges. They were just generally working on quite a bit of FPS gear. This was all meant to focus. This was the FPS tools team. This was another thing they were working on at the time, something that we actually got in that time. But you can see the team in general was splitting their time between weapons and FPS tools. And as time went on, they basically said, no more weapons for Star Citizen. And then they kind of focused on some of the tools. So we got the medical tool, the salvage attachment stuff, the salvage tool, that kind of stuff. But the team was still really focused on Squadron when it came to weapons. So this is their big return to making Star Citizen weapons. And we saw this a lot last year when they introduced the team. But this is also something that they're now kind of linking into their whole content thing. They're not just going to drop these in. They're going to make them part of the content release, places that you have to go to find them or maybe loot them, eventually craft them. Might be the way going forward for all these kinds of releases, which is better than they did before. Before they would just be like, okay, there's a new gun, go to the store and buy it and test it and tell us how it is. Now it's kind of gamified a little bit. So they say, fresh new manufacturer aesthetics come into the Star Citizen universe. This series will also debut new damage and ammo types, expanding combat options in fun new ways. This is something that they did do before with their weapon drops in the past. I think it was like 3.6 maybe. No, it was before that. 3. Is when they started to add the axe cav. Here we go. Lightning bolt. Pistol. Where's the sniper? Here it is. The ATSCAV Electron Sniper Rifle. So this included a new damage type. And I'm not sure if that's on here. Yeah, Electron damage. Comprised of energy, distortion, and stun damage. These targets hit by electron projectiles will retain a charge for a brief amount of time, and if hit again will discharge damage in the area. So if you charge someone up enough, the damage arcs to somebody else. Now, I don't know if it's the same thing with the Volt guns, because this combines energy distortion and stun damage, and they're saying that we're getting a new type of damage here. But they don't specifically say what it is, I think. We're happy to share that we're getting close to releasing the full lineup of Volt weapons into the PU, with most of the feature work for the new ammo and damage types wrapping up. Our weapon artists are taking early 2025 to add the final polish to each asset. We're targeting a Q2 rollout with regular releases to follow. This marks the beginning of a more consistent stream of weapon content as the weapon team wraps up their work on Squadron 42, there we go, and shifts their focus towards expanding Star Citizen's arsenal. So basically all but confirmed. They were working on weapons for a while. And I do think that there's a lot of stuff they can do here to make these weapons even better. We've already seen some of them get updates that made them fight a little bit better in the last year. The Arclight, the LH86, and I believe the Lumen 5, I think, all got alternate firing methods. And things like the rocket launcher and railgun can probably get better firing solutions as well. I think that there we'll see more FPS focus again, hopefully in the non-lethal category. I'm really, really, really begging the team. We need to get electron weapons that only disable, because this would do wonders. If you could just knock someone out for 10 seconds or 20 seconds, long enough to restrain them or put them in a brig or something like that where they're causing trouble, and you can actually take care of that trouble without having to kill them, that'd be huge. And we know that they want to do a Preacher Armaments taser. It's not a secret. I'm pretty sure I have a picture of it. No? Okay, maybe I don't. Preacher? No? Okay, I don't. Well, I lied, but we need some non-lethal for sure. Anyways, the first one up is the Volt rifle. We first showcased an early version of this weapon at CitizenCon 2953, and while it's evolved since then, its core function remains the same, starting as a traditional assault rifle before transitioning into a powerful beam weapon. For a bit of fun dev insight, one of the challenges we're tackling is how the weapon handles recoil when switching from projectiles to a beam. Right now it shifts between two separate recoil records, which isn't something our current tech supports. To fix this, we're improving the system to allow for a smooth transition, shifting from the sharp, punchy recoil for an assault rifle to the controlled precision of a focused beam. Let me show you guys what that looked like when they showed it off.
Moving on to our new Volt weapons. So, there's the other video.
That's
the optic one.
Cool looking Volt weapon.
There you go. Fine. These are the Volt weapons. So Volt is primarily based around controlling a heat of a weapon. These weapons have the potential to overheat.
Wait, I got a pretty funny sound clip of when the devs were first building this weapon. One of them was trying to describe it by voice. It's a very funny moment.
So it's gonna stop.
Tell me how close this gets to what the Volt weapon actually sounds like, folks. How accurate was he?
Start out being like a projectile shooting weapon as you start firing. It will then evolve into a beam. So it'll start out with a tug, 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 where you have the beam, and it also has the potential or the potential for overheating. So, all
right,
that is something that's coming.
Okay, how close was this?
And if they overheat, you will be unable to fire.
I hear it. Dun, 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 dun.
You will be unable to fire.
I think he gets it.
And they will enact differently. So some weapons will just basically be beams from the get-go. Some will go into beams. Like you see, this one goes into a beam once it reaches a certain level of heat. And it's really fun because, these are quite powerful weapons, and you basically want to manage the heat and, keep it in that ideal spot. Okay, cool.
So this is an interesting gun for me because it's called low tech. The idea behind these guns is that they're made out of parts and they're not very professional. That's why they don't have a bunch of shroudings and they've got a whole bunch of stuff that you can see. It's like a lot of uncovered parts. It's very techy. But at the same time, these also look like power weapons almost, and I'm wondering how these will balance against the ballistics. I love energy weapons as somebody who grew up on Halo for the most part. As you guys know, I do a lot of Halo. I'm a big fan of like plasma rifles, of carbines, of just plasma pistols, all the things. So I'm excited to see this coming to the game, but I do wonder if I will be interested in using these because I do like the punch of ballistic guns now. And I feel like for a gun like this, you really have to get the feel of shooting it right, or it's just gonna lose its appeal really quickly, because you'll have other guns that are easier to get ammo for, that have better stopping power maybe, and aren't as flashy and ooh-ah. So this is what it looks like when you're using it as of about a year ago, maybe half a year ago. It takes out a heavy pretty freaking quick. But then I wondered to myself, okay, these are low-tech, kind of like hard to get. You got to find them out and loot, probably off in Pyro. What is the explanation for why these are sitting around in Pyro and not being sold on store shelves in Stanton? Either way, that's the rifle. Should be an interesting one to play with. After that is the shotgun. They say this one's a blast. Literally. As it heats up, it fires more pellets, making it an absolute menace in extended firefights. That actually sounds really cool. With a large mag size and solid heat retention, it's shaping up to be one of the scariest shotguns in the verse, but beware, push it too far and you might find yourself struggling at the start compared to more traditional options. See, again. So, what's the stopping power? What's the actual power of this? Those are the interesting bits we won't know until they come out, obviously. The Stanton stations have volt signage around. Yeah, that's true. It'll be very upsetting if there aren't actually sold there. Just make them expensive. Just put them in one shop, right? You can only buy them at ArcCorp. Because ArcCorp has everything. And the sound for the shotgun, right now it practically rips a hole in space itself when fired. It's incredibly meaty. Every shot feels like pure devastation. I'm imagining shot like Mass Effect 3 shotgun sounds. We don't really have much of a look at the shotgun. I'll actually show you there are other weapons. So weapons are becoming a thing again. FPS is now coming back into focus, even though it never really left, in my opinion. Combat's always been the focus of Star Citizen, but it's pretty clear that like FPS interaction is becoming more a focus again. It might not just mean weapons. It could be door breaches, tasers, deployable shields, new types of grenades. It could even be new like salvage or mining tools and items. I'm hoping we see salvage charges soon to blow open holes on ships and get inside. But what we're looking for is a look at FPS weapons. Here we go.
Military weapon, the UEE. It's a workhorse, it's reliable, it's functional, and it just gets the job done.
So the Volt Rifle is another new weapon that we're releasing in the PU. A brand new manufacturer for the weapon content team. Volt are a electric and beam ammunition type, using electric batteries to power their weapons. They're very techy.
That's another thing that we're starting to see. Electric batteries. Don't take it lightly that they're talking about that. That's engineering. Electric batteries, we're going to have those in our ships, in outposts, in weapons, and in armor. And you'll have to like make sure they don't actually die.
They feel very professionally homemade. It's not thrown together, but also it's not professionally manufactured.
This is the manufacturer who relies on cheap produced goods, but they still wanted it to look cool and shiny. But they are not really reliable in terms of long term.
Dude, what is that's a ridiculous amount of power right there. 450 amps at 148 freaking volts. Holy crap. The battery is actually not that big. Wait, no, that is a massive battery. 3,000 amp hours is freaking huge. That's like 1,000 times a phone battery size. It's incredibly dense and also a ton of power. I would not want to carry this thing around.
Use.
We wanted a manufacturer where people could use these weapons and then they could also repair and upgrade and kind of, they look like you would be able to strip them down and kind of field repair them, or work in your workshop in your ship, or in your habs or wherever, and kind of really get into the nitty gritty.
What's the warning say?
Cool and shiny, but they are not really reliable in terms of long-term use. Cool and shiny, but they are not really reliable in terms of...
All right. This warning says, please always use a smart charger, parentheses, with automatic power cutoff function to charging hypercapacitor battery. Little typo there. Charging battery without on attention. What? Charging battery without attention. Without an attention may cause battery explode. May cause battery explode. Battery go When charging hypercapacitor battery, please always put the battery in a wireproof. Who wrote this? Please. Hey, Dave, are there any wires in there? You can't go. Don't go in there. Please put the battery in any wireproof place to avoid any accidents happening. Thank you. Or no, I imagine this warning would end with, you're welcome. English hard.
Of long-term use.
We wanted a manufacturer where people could use these weapons and then they could also repair and upgrade and kind of, they look like you would be able to strip them down and kind of field repair them, or work in your workshop in your ship, or in your habs or wherever, and kind of really get into the nitty gritty of how these weapons work. So there's a lot of visual cues to that with, like how the screen attaches, all the little kind of fittings and screws and how it all kind of comes together, that visually is something quite nice and exciting, I think.
There is anything like this in a PU as of now. This will suit more of the guys who wanted to...
See, I love the look of that. I definitely love the look. But how does it shoot?
Show off, rather than to be military-style weapons. You will have some shiny, cool guns that you can show to your friends and say, there, I did it. This is a really cool-looking gun.
I've always been a little bit opposed to very big flashy lasers and electricity on firearms. I think it can...
I need the beam impacting to look better.
I've always been
This is definitely before they really polished it.
A little bit opposed.
It just feels like it's kind of going through them almost. I want to see more like splash from the beam hitting them. Give me a little bit of that plasma feel, Take me back. I'm sorry, everything's Halo in my head.
To very big flashy lasers and electricity on firearms. I think it can drift away from my idea of traditional firearm. But I think working within the confines of what Volt as manufacturer are, being a home-built kit that you could order online supposedly and manufacture yourself.
Dude, it is dispatching these guys, though.
Being more of a fun ammunition type.
This is still work in progress, but you can see the direction where it's going.
All right, so this one's in game. I still haven't seen this in game yet, but it is a thing. There was, and there's this thing, which they still haven't said anything about. There was another Volt weapon that they actually showed off during this video. Must be in like the last little showcase of all the different guns here. No, I am not seeing it. I know they showed off another one of the Volt guns.
Is important.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. So this is not the rifle. This is different from what we just saw. We were looking at this one. And this one clearly has a slightly different construction. Not as long a barrel, these like green hexagonal kind of shapes here. But it's got a lot of that same, I mean, it's pretty similar. It's got a rail up top here. So it's like, it's shorter. But you can see the reused assets, the yellow, the end, this part on the bottom, everything. That'd be cool if they were modular. That'd be very cool.
You know, it is still a first-person game, and I think that...
So this one's immediate beam. This one has no projectiles unless the heat... Wait, the heat's already up there.
Involved into it.
You know, it is still a first-person game, and...
Yeah, there's no heat. So even without heat on the SMG, it's just a beam weapon. So this might be our first dedicated beam weapon in Star Citizen.
I think that, you know, the work we do is important. I hope we're a significant part of your...
Oh, did you see that reload animation? That was sick. The little cubey things roll in the barrel when they change over.
You know, the work we do is important. I hope we're a significant part of your interaction.
God, okay, sorry. Little geeking out on that. So that... They don't have an SMG here. So what was that? Oh yeah, the Ripper is a beam weapon, you're right. But I think the Ripper uses the mining laser, the cutting laser, right? What is this? It's definitely not a pistol. This is an SMG. So this must be something that they're not including in this announcement. Because they've got a shotgun here, a sniper rifle, and a pistol. Unless they canceled an SMG, maybe this is a future Volt weapon that we'll see released too. Because they do say they want to do regular releases after Q2. So maybe this would be one of them. A secret Volt weapon. The Volt Sniper is a terrifying fusion of the Scalpel and the AO3. It cranks up its RPM as it heats up, making it high risk, high reward. Mastering its recoil and heat management will separate the deadly from the doomed. Those who can handle it will dominate. That sounds like a freaking fun sniper rifle to use. If its mechanics don't intimidate your enemies, its sheer size will. This thing is an absolute unit. Easily the most imposing sniper in our arsenal. Wow. That's pretty... They have some big snipers. Actually, maybe only one or two. Scalpel's pretty large. No, that's not the rifle. The rifle looks like this. This is the rifle. This is something else. Besides that, we have a pistol as well. The pistol is a rapid fire, and its RPM increases the longer you fire it to account for firing for extended periods. It has a large battery for a weapon of its size, giving you the opportunity to use it in a less powerful state for longer periods, or run it hot to give someone a nasty rapid fire surprise. See, I like this. This might be my plasma pistol of Star Citizen. Anyways, that's the Volt weapons.